Greetings, friends. As we move through this stewardship season together, we are called this week to consider our work as storytellers as an important means of conveying our history with God. In our gospel reading, we will hear Jesus tell a parable about a landowner who was continually troubled by tenants who were derelict in making payment of produce at the time of the harvest. The chief priest and the Pharisees, who originally heard Jesus' parable, would have instantly understood the story in terms of the history of the Jewish people, as the story reminded them of their history of rebelling against the God who had repeatedly shown them forgiveness. They were also being challenged to choose to return to living in right relationship with God. As we are preparing to commit our gifts to the ministry of the church, it's important that we also take time to reflect upon the stories that are part of our own history of faith. Whether we recall our experiences in this congregation or our encounters from elsewhere in our lives, these moments in time serve as an enduring reminder of who God has been for us all along our own journey. This week, I invite you to share your stories in worship. I hope you've been thinking about those moments in your own history when you've witnessed people of faith trusting in God and committing their own gifts. If you have a story to share, you're welcome to write it down and bring it with you, or to type it up and send it to me. We'll be pinning your contributions to our storyboard in the sanctuary all month long. Before we enter into our time for worship this week, I hope you'll devote time to reading our two scripture passages. First, we'll read an Old Testament lesson from the 20th chapter of the book of Exodus, verses 1 through 20. We'll then read a gospel lesson from Matthew 21, verses 33 through 46. After you've read these passages, I also invite you to respond to these questions. The image of the vineyard reminds us that we labor in God's field. Can you remember someone who made good use of the gifts God entrusted to them? And as you reflect upon your own history of faith, what story might you share about a time when you shared in using your gifts to fulfill God's will? I'm looking forward to reading and hearing some of the stories that you might contribute to our conversation and worship this week. We'll gather to share God's story and to lift up some of our own stories on Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. You're welcome to join us either in person in the sanctuary at 718 Court Street or on our congregation's YouTube channel, where worship is simultaneously viewable through our live webcast. Should you need to share and worship at another time, you are welcome to view the recorded videos of our gatherings, which are archived on our YouTube channel once worship has concluded. Friends, let's come to the Lord so that we might hear the great story of our faith. And as we do so, let us invite our neighbors to join us at the feet of Jesus, so that they too might hear tales of God's love and grace poured out for the sake of us all. May grace and peace be yours in abundance.